Hey gang, and welcome back. These videos are brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your unused collection fast and easily. 401 Games, Canada's top shop for all your hobby and TCG needs. Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. And Moxfield, the easiest way to store and share your deck lists. Fred wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws for turn, plays a tapped Fields of the Dead, and passes to Corwin. Corwin just draws, plays a command tower, and passes. Maximus plays Agadine the Undercrypt untapped, taking 3 and passing after that. My turn has me drawing and playing a Rockfall Vale. Fred draws and plays a land. He then casts It That Heralds the End and passes to Corwin. Corwin just plays a forest. Maximus draws, plays a plains, and casts Lightning Greaves. I've got a forest return as well, paying 2 for a Farseek, and passing while searching. Fred's turn has him playing a Sulphurous Springs, and then casting one of my favorite Modern Horizon cards with a Glaring Fleshraker. He passes once it resolves. Corwin draws, plays a Swamp, and casts Baba Lysaga. Maximus' turn has him playing a Plains, and he casts Verrak. He then moves to equip the Lightning Greaves to his commander, and he goes to combat. He swings his commander at me, dealing 2 and gaining 2 from lifelink. I just draw and play a mountain and pass. Fred's turn has him playing an Ancient Tomb, tapping it and losing 2 to help cast Ulalek. This has Fred making a spawn from the Fleshraker, and we then each take 2 as the spawn and his commander enter the battlefield to the Fleshraker's other trigger. Corwin's got a Blinkmoth Nexus for turn, and taps it to animate itself. He then sacrifices it to Lysaga, and we each lose 3, and Corwin draws 3 cards. Corwin then casts Tyvar, and upticks the Walker to untap Lysaga. With nothing else, he ships the turn. Maximus plays a Windswept Heath, and sacrifices it, losing 1, and paying an extra 1 to copy the trigger with Verrak. He goes to get a Plains and a Godless Shrine, paying 2 life off the shrine so it'll come in untapped. Max then casts an Enduring Angel. Once the angel's out, Max then equips the Greaves onto it, and moving to combat, swings it at Fred for 6. Fred takes the hit, and Max then passes. My turn has a forest coming in, and I've got enough mana now to cast Xenagos, passing as my commander resolves. Fred draws, and in his main phase casts a Jeska's Will, making 7 red and exiling his top 3. He plays a Spawning Bed from exile, and then casts Sire of 7 Deaths, and uses the Ulalek trigger to copy it, as well as all the triggers on the stack. This makes him 2 more spawns and an extra Sire, dealing a total of 4 with the Fleshraker triggers as they come in. He then casts Garruk's Uprising from exile, drawing as it enters. Going to combat, he swings Ulalek at Tyvar. Corwin decides Tyvar isn't worth blocking for, and Fred passes. Corwin draws, and plays a Raminap Excavator, and then replays the Blinkmoth Nexus from his graveyard. Once more he taps it, and then animates it with its own mana, sacrificing it to Baba Lysaga. This deals 3 to each opponent, and Corwin draws 3 cards. Maximus draws and casts a Serra Paragon in his main phase, and then moves the Greaves to that angel. He then plays the Windswept Heath from his graveyard, and cracks it again, paying another life to copy it thanks to Verrak's ability. He then gains 2 back from the Paragon as he goes to find 2 lands. Max gets a Sunlit Marsh and a Snowfield Sinkhole off them, and then moves the Greaves back onto the Enduring Angel. Going to combat, Maximus hits Corwin for 6 with the Enduring Angel, and passes after that. I draw and decide one Jeska's Will deserves another, casting my own copy and making 7 red and exiling my top 3. I then play an Ancient Tomb and cast an Entwined Tooth and Nail. I get Zopandrel and the Big Bad Itali and put them both into play. Itali entering has everyone exiling their top cards until they hit a non-land spell, and I hit Rampant Growth, Ulalek the Ceaseless Hunger, Malakir Rebirth, and Drana, I cast all but the Rebirth, and Ulalek exiles the Fleshraker and Verrak's Uprising. Rampant Growth then gets me a Mountain, and I then move to combat. I put the Xenagos trigger onto Ulalek and swing it at Corwin. This has him exiling his top 20, and he chumps with the Ramunap Excavator. Before damage though, he activates Lysaga, sacrificing a land, Tyvar, and the Excavator, once more dinging us for 3 and drawing 3 cards. With my combat step over, I pass turn. Fred draws and casts Sire of Stagnation, and with Ulalek's ability, pays the 2 colorless to copy it. Going to combat, Fred then swings the 2 Sire of 7 Deaths at me, and I double block one of them with Subpandrel and a Tally, but take the other. Fred then passes turn. Corwin draws, and plays a Bayou, which exiles his top 4 to Fred's Sires of Stagnation, and Fred draws 4. Corwin then casts a Thornbite Staff, and passes to Maximus. Maximus draws, and plays out Pact Weapon, one of my favorite equipment cards, and then discards Swiftfoot Boots to equip it onto the Enduring Angel. He then plays a Swamp for turn, exiling his top 4, and Fred draws 4. He then casts the Swiftfoot Boots from his graveyard thanks to the Sarah Paragon. Max then moves the boots onto Verrak, and he goes to combat, swinging the Enduring Angel at Corwin. This has the Pact Weapon revealing a Swamp, and Corwin just takes the hit for 6. Max then discards a Swamp he drew to move the Pact Weapon onto Verrak, and passes after it resolves. My turn has me drawing and moving straight to combat like all good Xenagos players should, and once more I get the Xenagos trigger, and I put it onto a Tally. I swing a Tally at Corwin, Ulalek at Fred, and Drana at Maximus. This has Fred exiling his top 20, and he blocks with one of the Sires of 7 Death, while Max and Corwin declare no blocks and take their hits. Fred gains a bit of life from the Sire because of lifelink, and with the combat step done, my purpose in this game is over, and I pass to Fred. Fred plays a Shivan Reef, and casts Ugin the Ineffable. He then downticks the Walker to get rid of Subpandrel, and going to combat, he swings everything at me. At this point I realize that I have no blockers, and get taken out. With nothing else, Fred passes. Corwin's turn has him casting Crop Rotation in his main phase, sacrificing a forest to go and find Inkmoth Nexus. And he exiles his top 4 to the Sire of Stagnation as the forest comes into play, and Fred draws 4. Corwin then animates the Inkmoth Nexus, and sacrifices it to Lysaga, drawing 3 and dealing 3 to each opponent. He then plays a Forest for turn, once more exiling another 4, and Fred draws 4 more cards. Corwin decides that he doesn't like his library anyway, casting Kadama's Reach, and going to find a basic for the field and a basic for his hand, and once he's done, exiles his top 4, and Fred draws 4. Maximus draws and plays a Swamp, exiling his top 4, and Fred once more draws 4. He then casts Repay in Kind, dropping everyone down to 7 life, and he goes to combat. He swings the 2 angels at Fred, and Verrak goes at Corwin. This has Maximus's Pact Weapon going off, and he reveals a Plains. Fred then gets taken out to combat damage, while Corwin drops to 5, and Maximus gains 2. With nothing else, Max passes. Corwin's turn has him drawing and casting a Conduit of Worlds in his main phase. He then replays the Inkmoth Nexus from his graveyard, and he then taps it to animate itself, and he activates Baba Lysaga to sacrifice the Inkmoth Nexus again. This deals 3 and has him drawing 3 from the trigger, but with no answers in hand to Max's board, he knows when he's beat to a bunch of flyers and scoops it up. Game review time. So as you can see, this was a bit of a shorter game, coming in at just over 43 minutes. A lot of that can be attributed to all the chip damage that's going on in this game. Between the glaring Fleshraker and the Baba Lysaga triggers, people were taking a lot of damage. I think it's pretty easy to say that the MVP for this game might have been a Tally since I got so many spells off of it, but I think it was actually Repay in Kind. It was able to get Maximus's opponents down so low in life that he was able to swing out and take them out. And for me, this is one of the best things about EEH, casting big flashy spells that have high impact. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.